They broke into a 3,000-year-old coffin expecting dust. That's what time does. It reduces skin to powder. It hollows eyes. It erases faces. But when the lid finally shifted, when centuries of silence cracked open, what stared back at them didn't look ancient. It looked recent. The wrappings were tight. The contours of the face were still there. The nose had not collapsed. The eyelids still held their shape. And for a moment, a long, uncomfortable moment, no one in the room spoke, because what lay inside that sealed cartonage coffin did not look like something that had waited 3 millennia. It looked like someone who had died yesterday. The coffin itself made no sense. Cartonage, layers of linen and papyrus glued together with plaster, hardened into a rigid human shell. From head to foot it was seamless. No obvious opening, no visible hinge, no clean insertion point. It looked molded, as if the body and the coffin had become one single object. Curators had displayed it for years. Visitors stared at it behind glass, but one question refused to die. How do you place a fully wrapped body inside a coffin that has no opening? For decades, no one had an answer. Until someone decided to look inside, without opening it. They wheeled the coffin into a hospital-grade CT scanner, the same machine used to scan trauma patients. X-rays began slicing through 3,000 years of silence, layer by layer, bandage by bandage, bone by bone. And what appeared on the monitor did not just solve a puzzle, it revealed intention. Because the coffin wasn't built first, it was built around her. The scans showed something no visitor could see from the outside. The embalmers had wrapped the body tightly, carefully shaping the limbs, preserving the natural contours, then softened the outer cartonage material and molded it directly over the wrapped form. They didn't place her inside a shell. They created the shell on her body, a reverse construction, and that detail changes everything. Because this was not just about preservation, it was about appearance. Under the wrappings, the CT images showed a woman in her late 30s or early 40s, her teeth worn by coarse bread, her jaw intact, the shape of her nose still visible, even subtle folds around the eyes. Artificial eyes had been inserted beneath the linen, small pieces placed where sight once lived. Not decoration, restoration. The goal was not merely to prevent decay. The goal was to make her look complete, to make her recognizable, to make her present. That is why, when modern researchers first saw the scans, the reaction was not scientific. It was instinctive. She did not look like a ruin. She looked like someone paused. And that is where the illusion begins. Because nothing here came back to life. But everything here was engineered to look like it had. And once you understand how they did it, you begin to realize something unsettling. This wasn't primitive preservation. This was precision. The first instinct is to call it a miracle. But miracles don't show up in cross-section. When the CT images sharpened, the mystery began to separate into layers, literal layers. Beneath the painted face, beneath the hardened plaster shell, beneath the linen, there was engineering. The wrapping technique alone was meticulous. The arms were bound close to the torso, the fingers individually wrapped, the jaw secured to prevent collapse. The linen wasn't random. It was tensioned. Compression preserves form, and form is what the eye reads as life. Then came the chemistry. Resins, oils, plant compounds, bitumen. These substances weren't just symbolic offerings. Many of them are naturally antimicrobial. They slow bacterial growth. They seal moisture pathways. They create an internal environment hostile to decay. Think of it not as mummification. Think of it as environmental control. Inside that cocoon of linen and resin, oxygen was limited. Microbial activity slowed. Soft tissues dried without collapsing. But the real masterstroke wasn't chemical. It was mechanical. The cartonage shell acted like a cast. Once molded over the wrapped body, it locked the contours in place. No shifting, no crushing from soil pressure, no distortion from insects or debris. For 3,000 years, gravity tried to win. It failed. And that's why, when modern researchers looked at the scans, they saw something uncanny. The outline of nasal cartilage, the curve of eyelids, the subtle structure of cheeks. Not fresh, not alive, but intact enough to trick the brain. The brain doesn't measure centuries, it reads shapes, and this shape said, recent. That illusion, that powerful, unsettling illusion, wasn't an accident, it was intention. In ancient Egyptian belief, identity mattered beyond death. The body was not disposable, it was a vessel of recognition. Without recognizable form, continuity was at risk, so they didn't just preserve. They reconstructed. Artificial eyes were inserted beneath wrappings, small deliberate placements to restore the geometry of sight. Pigments were painted bright. The face on the outer coffin mirrored the face beneath. Layer upon layer reinforcing one message: she is still herself. But here's where it becomes more disturbing. Because this level of preservation doesn't just rely on ritual, it relies on knowledge. Knowledge of materials, knowledge of decay, knowledge of how long flesh takes to collapse, and how to stop it. This wasn't superstition. It was experimentation refined over generations. And when you zoom out, when you step beyond this single coffin, you realize something else. Egypt wasn't the only place where the dead looked almost alive, thousands of miles away. In a sealed tomb beneath layers of earth, another body waited. Not dry, not desiccated, but preserved in a way that shocked even modern pathologists. Her name, in modern transcription, is often rendered as Lady Dai. And when her coffin was opened in the 1970s, the illusion was even stronger, because this time the body wasn't hardened. It was soft. Her skin retained elasticity. Her joints could be gently flexed. Her organs were still present. Even her last meal remained inside her stomach. It did not look ancient. It looked suspended. And suddenly the question changes. Not, how did they preserve her? But, how many ancient cultures understood decay better than we assumed? And how many preservation techniques are still buried, waiting? Because once you accept that the ancients mastered the art of stopping time, you begin to wonder what else they engineered. When that 3,000-year-old coffin was first placed inside a modern CT scanner, no one expected to confront something that felt recent. They expected damage, collapse, emptiness. Instead, they found intention. Every layer of linen pulled tight for a reason. Every drop of resin sealing more than flesh. Every contour protected from time itself. It wasn't luck. It wasn't miracle. It was design. And that might be the most unsettling part of all. Because preservation at this level doesn't happen by accident. It means someone understood decay, understood moisture, understood collapse, understood how a face disappears, and how to stop it. The ancient embalmers weren't trying to trick us. They were trying to defeat erasure. And for a moment, when modern eyes first saw those scans, it felt like they had succeeded. Not because she was alive, but because she was recognizable. Recognizable is powerful. Recognizable is human. Across continents, in Egypt and in Han China, in sealed coffins and submerged chambers, different cultures arrived at the same goal: hold the body long enough for memory to survive, freeze identity before time can rewrite it. And when we open those tombs today, with scanners instead of crowbars, we're not disturbing the dead. We're witnessing the result of a promise made thousands of years ago, a promise that said, "I will not disappear." But here's the final question. If ancient civilizations mastered the art of preservation, if they engineered coffins around bodies, if they created chemical environments strong enough to halt decay, what else did they understand that we've underestimated? How much knowledge still lies sealed beneath sand and stone? Because every time archaeology peels back another layer, the pattern repeats. They were not primitive. They were precise. And sometimes, they were far more advanced than we're comfortable admitting. The coffin wasn't hiding a monster. It was hiding competence. And competence, across 3,000 years, is far more haunting. Because it reminds us of something simple. The past is not dead. It is waiting, waiting to be scanned, waiting to be understood, waiting to challenge what we think we know. And somewhere beneath layers of earth that have not yet been disturbed, another face is still holding its shape.